Our guest today has spent the past 21 years helping owner-managed businesses and entrepreneurs as a business advisor. She works closely with her clients to provide insight about how to help them grow their business. She's dedicated to assisting family-owned businesses to effectively deal with their unique challenges. As a local business, I can state for certain that having someone who truly understands what's happening in a family-owned and local business, that's huge. Sarah's also been very engaged in her community, and she's volunteered for a number of organizations, including the Saskatchewan Young Professionals and Entrepreneurs. She's been on several boards, including SaskFilm, the Regina Chamber of Commerce, FEX, which is the Family Enterprise Exchange, and the Regina Women's Network. So we had a few minutes to talk before the show today, and we even talked about some of her involvement with her kids' activities. So first off, Sarah, welcome. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks very much, Barb. It's great to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start off. What drives you to be so involved in the community?
Well, I think part of that is a little bit the way that I was raised. I was raised in a small town, Saskatchewan, and we know that in small town Saskatchewan, it's very important that everybody does their part, and it's very important that that we all work together to build a better community. And my parents exemplified that, and I have been, that's been a pretty important part of my upbringing and my involvement in this community of Regina. Is I really believe that we are the people who live here. We are the people who can work together to continue to make things better in our community.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been a really core belief in my career, and something that I'm hoping my kids will are seeing and might work towards as well. So it's been pretty important to me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true because if you don't support your community, we can't all look to someone else to say, oh, they're going to do it. They're going to coach. They're going to, help with the fundraising, because eventually you run out of places to point, right? Yeah, absolutely.
That's absolutely true. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and frankly,
go ahead.
Sorry. I was just going to say, and frankly, being engaged and involved in activities, you get out of it way more than you put into it. Being involved in organizations, the relationships I've built, the people that I've met, the work that's been done has been incredibly fulfilling. And so part of it is giving back to the community, but part of it is you do get a lot out of it yourself as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it almost becomes like a second family when you get to know these people and you get involved in their lives. And especially when it's activities that your kids are involved with. You spend so much time with these other families that they become your extended family.
Yes. Yes.
So over the last number of months, of course, we've been through COVID. It's been a crazy time. Were you still able to be involved with any of the organizations, or did everything kind of grind to a halt?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's definitely changed the way that we've engaged and in many organizations. The Chamber of Commerce right now is doing some great work in our community to try and promote Regina businesses and remind people that that we're all in this together, and we need to support each other and support our businesses in our community. And that campaign is actually broadened provincially and is supported by the government. And so it's been a really great to see that continue to evolve and grow even in these times when we can't sort of engage with each other in the same way that we normally have. So
we normally would.
Yeah, so it's been great. Fabulous people involved in these organizations, particularly the Regina Chamber. That's really kind of been able to adapt and move forward. And several of the organizations that I've involved in, I've just been amazed at our, at KPMG as well, how we've been able to really do what we continue to do what we do in and be very innovative about how we've restructured our lives. And it's been very interesting to me, having been very involved with family businesses and over the years. Family businesses are very good at integrating their family lives and their business lives and their work lives, and actually we're all getting better at that, right? Because we have to, because we're doing algebra and we're taking business calls and the dogs are in the Zoom meetings and all these things. So I think really this has been some really great silver linings to this, in that we're all, I think it really helps for better balance when our kids are popping into our team meetings, right? We kind of are able to interact as teams a little bit better. So
yes, I agree. One of the things that you started to say was, how we're all adapting, and what kind of caught with me was family business, local business. We tend to need to adapt more quickly, or tend to be able to adapt more quickly than a large organization that needs to, right the ship in the midst of the Titanic kind of thing. I know my business absolutely had to, do an about face. We were just about to do a large live event when COVID was announced. And we're certainly not the only ones. And so we adapted and we said, okay, how can we take this virtual? And it's turned out to be gangbusters. Like, there's been a ton of interest in the virtual participation. So, will people go back, or will this virtual world continue, or will we find a new normal, in the midst of this, right? What about your kids?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I would think that for your kids, I mean, especially your daughter, so she's pulled out a synchro, and your son's activities at 15. How have they adapted? What have you found? Your kids are just a little bit older than mine. How have they adapted and, found that new normal for themselves?
Well, I definitely think this has been a challenging time for kids, and lack of structure, and lack of interaction with their friends, which is, my daughter is an extreme extrovert. That part of this has been hard. I've been very grateful. She throughout this, she was meeting with her teammates on Zoom and doing workouts, and some of that technology has been really beneficial for the kids, I think. But my son is very active in sports, and missing that. I think they were pretty good. They were able to adapt, and they enjoyed the bit of a summer vacation a little bit early. But I think the sooner we can get back to some structure in kids' lives, and from a work and community and business perspective as well, it's hard, it's challenging for people to be doing their jobs in a different way, but also trying to facilitate their kids learning. So I think the sooner we can get a little bit more structure in our kids' lives, the better. So
yes, I agree. And I think my son is very similar to your daughter in that he's a real extrovert. He relies on those social interactions. And it was fairly early during COVID. Like, I'm going to say it was the first couple of weeks when everything was super lockdown tight, and, dad went for groceries once a week and that was it. And I remember trying to explain it to the kids, and, here's how it was going to work. So my kids are 11 and 13. So they're right around the same age as your daughter.
Yeah.
And I remember trying to explain to them and how it was all going to work. My son got upset. He's like, Mom, I cannot spend the next 5 months with just you two. We were like, oh, who else do you think you would be spending it with? Right? But even in his brain at 11, he was just like, that was overwhelming. Like, no one else to talk to except for the 4 of us for 5 months.
Yes.
Right? So totally overwhelming.
and it's been better in the last few weeks, being able to, the kids go, be outside more, and see their friends outside, and those kind of things has really helped. So
Yes.
yeah.
Even that little bit where they can finally be outside and it's nice and fresh air, and jump on the trampoline and go for a bike ride. Playgrounds are open now. My kids are a little bit past that playground stage, but just, being able to do some of those really simple things. Like, I get it now, this whole mental health piece, like the fresh air and the interaction. I don't think we realize how much that does for our mental health and well-being until you don't have it all of a sudden, right?
Right. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your practice at KPMG. And then, of course, you've been nominated for a Woman of Distinction with the YWCA Regina. So congratulations on that nomination.
Yeah. Thank you very much. It's been a real honor. So yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Did you know the nomination was coming?
At the very last minute, I was let in on the secret that the nomination was going in. So yeah, it's been good. Yeah.
Good. Okay, so tell us a little bit about I can't talk anymore. A little bit about your work at KPMG.
Yeah, so I lead the tax practice at KPMG. So that's sort of the basis of my career, has been in working with tax and working with private companies in their structuring and their estate planning, working with companies that are selling their businesses. So just working and trying to help people work through the complicated and even more complex and complicated, it seems, as in the last few years, tax rules that are out there. So, helping people deal with that. And then, about 10 years ago, I got more involved in the family business side of things and helping clients with succession and the continuity of the family business. So there's tax issues associated with that, obviously, but more starting to focus on the governance and the family side of things. And I've found that really interesting, and there's been some really great work done, particularly in North America. Well, I think Europe is way ahead of us in some of these things because they've had multi-generational family businesses, I think, longer than we have in North America, and certainly in Western Canada. But
yeah,
so there's been some really good work evolving in trying to understand family businesses and some of the things that family businesses need to do differently, or need to pay attention more so than your typical, entrepreneurial, single person owned business, or public companies, which of course are different beast all the time. So it's been really great working with families and helping them really address some of these issues that they maybe haven't looked at in the past. So.
Do you think that part of what drew you into working with family businesses was having grown up in a small town where almost everything was family owned?
Yeah, I do come from a family business. I guess my great-grandfather farmed, and that's been handed down, and my sister is now running the family farm. So seeing that transition, and seeing some situations where the transition maybe didn't go as smoothly, and some of the damage that it caused in families, and certainly something that really stayed with me as some of the things that families need to do to just get that communication ball rolling and avoid those misunderstandings that can be pretty devastating. So yeah, so that was a huge reason why I wanted to be involved in family businesses, and also really just the opportunity to and I think this is something that the world of being an accountant is very much evolving. There's lots of things that are automated now. The ledger paper is not been a real part of my career, and a generation ago it would have been the meat and potatoes of an accountant.
It would have been the staple.
Yeah. So we're not. Our role is changing, and what we as accountants, what we need to do is help our clients navigate some of the business challenges that they face, and it's less so about putting numbers in columns and so much more so about being strategic and managing for the future.
Yes, I agree. It's funny. We, of course, are a digital marketing agency. That's what Above the Fold is all about. And the radio show scratches the other side of my brain. It lets me talk to people on a completely different level. So we've been in business for a number of years, and you'll get a kick out of this, Sarah. In all of the years that we've been in business, we have had so much strife around good financial reporting. I won't go into any of the details, but suffice to say that this far in, I've kind of given up on the financial reports to help give me information on what we're doing. Where when I got started, I was like, okay, well, I want to see the finances. Where are we, where do we have good margins and where don't we? And in my mind, for what we do, the report shouldn't be complicated, but apparently I'm asking for something that's not that straightforward. So I've stopped asking because I just make everybody upset when I start to talk about it now.
Yeah, I think that what we've seen in the last few years is that the information that you are able to get is so much better. You can get things, there's almost too much data out there. There's too much information. So, people struggle with, how do I interpret, and what does this mean? What does this mean for my business? What does this mean for what I need to do tomorrow?
Yes.
And, I think that's where, we can help in those things, because people who are not comfortable with that, aspect of their business can be challenged by, okay, I see a million numbers, but that doesn't tell me anything, right? So
yes, exactly. And you have to be really comfortable with those numbers, because not everyone is, right? Yeah. That's the other thing that I've learned in business. Just because you're comfortable with numbers and can speak the lingo so quickly doesn't mean everyone can. And that makes it particularly challenging. Yeah, absolutely. So where do you see this going? So you've been nominated for an award at the YWCA. Where, what does that mean to you? How will that further help the community, help the chamber? Because I know you're the president of their board right now. What does all of that mean to you?
Well, I think one of the big things that the YWCA and the Women of Distinction does, which I think is so critical, is celebrate leadership in women in our community. I think that for many years, I think we've continued to have challenges, and it's so great to see over the last few years some of the women in our community that have done all sorts, and I always love going to the Women of Distinction Awards, because you just get so inspired by some of the women that are making new innovations in science, starting businesses. That just is so important to tell those stories, because I think it helps our daughters and it helps the next generation. It helps our husbands see the world in a different way, and it really highlights the great work that has been done by the leaders that came before us. My mother is actually a former Women of Distinction Award winner, and being raised by somebody who wanted to be a leader, and who knew that it was her job to change the world just a little bit, right? Has been something that I've learned a lot from, and something that I think I can talk to others about. So everyone has to find a different way to take their path, but I do think it is important that we as women celebrate each other and celebrate what we're doing in this community. So
I agree. And I really appreciate that, Sarah, because I think we're all raised so differently nowadays. But even when I look at how I was raised and what I model now versus how my husband was raised and what he models, he was raised on that very traditional farm family. He was a boy, so there was a role that boys played in that family. And I was raised in an urban setting where, both my parents worked. They really did share the household responsibility, kind of to a degree. But for me, there was never a here's what men do, here's what women do. Like, it was very much a partnership. And my husband comes at it from a bit of a different angle, where it was more traditional. So there's been, quite the process to blend those two together and help our kids understand that, like, no, it's not my job or someone's job. We're a family, and the work needs to get done, and so we do it together. Whether that means, my son and I are in the kitchen, or whether it's my husband and my daughter in the kitchen, whatever that makeup looks like, right? I was telling one of the other guests on my show, during COVID, my son really got into baking. So there was all those flour shortages during COVID. And like, we were one of those families who were suffering because he was making a batch of cookies every night. There was no weight loss in this house happening during COVID. And so he got to the point, and it was the funniest thing. So he got really good at single batches. And so I said to him, why don't you try a double batch? So he tried this double batch of cookies. Well, it flopped miserably. I don't know what he missed, what he didn't like. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
But it was terrible. And so it took him probably a good month or maybe even more before he was willing to try like a double batch again. But now he's up to the triple batch. He's like, oh, I can just make a triple batch. Then I don't have to do it for a few days. Okay, whatever. You know what? You're 11. You're baking cookies. I'm getting hot cookies served to me on a plate. Like, I'm okay with this. Do whatever you need to do.
Exactly. Right? And they're busy. Yeah.
Yes. Well, and that's the other thing. I mean, you can only watch so many hours of TV until it's like, come on, buddy, like, get off the couch. Right. So, and I remember being that age, like on those days when you had to do nothing, it was nice to veg out in front of the TV for a while. But eventually it's like, aren't you like bored, stupid at this point? Like, get up and let's do something.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, and I have to say, I have been incredibly blessed. My husband is very supportive of my career and what I'm doing. And he has, as a result, taken on more of a role in, some of the shuffling kids around. And I think my kids have really benefited from that. Being able to have a dad that's really involved in their lives and in their school and in their sports. And we do have a little bit of a non-traditional role, but it works for us. And yeah, my husband's been very, very supportive in me continuing to take on new roles in the community. Sometimes he rolls his eyes and says, okay, another board, Sarah. But anyway, it works okay.
I'm curious how many generations we will go through before what you and I are calling non-traditional actually becomes the traditional, where there is no she does this, he does this type of role in a family. And I'm kind of curious, like, will our kids not see what we saw as traditional as being traditional anymore? Do you know what I mean?
Well, and I actually think that the last couple months has really taught us that we can be very flexible in our workforce. We can do things digitally. We can do things, we can work from home. We don't need to travel as much, maybe, so there's opportunities in that for, I think, for yeah, for us to continue to improve the way we interact together as teams so that people can get the right, and I don't love the word balance because I don't think that any of this is about being balanced, but it does allow us to get the right, give and take between our family lives and our work lives. And hopefully that will help us to be, more figuring out what works for our families, as opposed to having our families have to change to accommodate our work lives. So
Exactly.
yeah, I'm optimistic that this will help us to be more innovative and creative and flexible in how we work out our careers.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Sarah, we are actually out of time. We've hit that magical 26-minute mark, so I need to wrap up the show. But I
Sure.
really appreciate that you've joined me today. There's not enough people who are involved and committed to their communities like you are anymore. So thank you for everything that you're doing.
Yeah, it was a real pleasure to chat with you today, Barb. And yeah, happy to, hopefully we can carry on this conversation at some point. So thank you very
Exactly.
much for inviting me to be part of this.
Absolutely. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, you can email me at barb@googlegirl.ca or reach out on Facebook and Instagram at Above the Fold CA. And just a reminder, you can even submit your questions in advance of the live show on our Facebook page. I'm your host, Barb McGrath, local business owner and Google Girl. Remember, you worked hard for your success. Don't keep